When it comes to early cartridge guns, one of the biggest usage was in pocket pistols. One of those guns was the Southern Derringer.
Derringers really reached the height of their popularity in the 1860s. There is, of course, the infamous Philadelphia Derringer, which is the style of gun used by John Wilkes Booth to assassinate President Abraham Lincoln in 1865. But this style of gun really had become popularized up to that point and was a pocket-style single-shot gun in .41 caliber. And as the self-contained metallic cartridge era really starts to take hold, again at the tail end of the Civil War, there are some companies and some designers that are marrying these two concepts together.
The little .41 rimfire became a very, very popular cartridge for small Derringer-type pistols. The first one was actually used by the National Derringer. It was a little all-metal Derringer, came out about in the mid-1860s, and made by the National Firearms Company for a while, and then it was produced by Colt. Again, then Remington came out with its famous double Derringer. That's the one that you see in every cowboy movie that's ever been made. That also fired the .41 rimfire. But there were other guns that also chambered this round. One of them, a popular one, it was a gun called the Southerner.
Daniel Moore patents his single-shot .41 rimfire Derringer design in the middle of the Civil War. And ultimately, right after the war, the design is bought by a company called Merrimack Arms and Manufacturing Company, which is based in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is notable because they market this design as the Southern Derringer.
We figured that these guys they called it the Southerner to kind of try to get sort of kind of appeal, romantic and patriotic appeal south of the Mason-Dixon line. And it was a very, very interesting little pistol, well made. It had a side swinging barrel that was released by a button underneath the frame. You just put in a cartridge, swiveled the barrel back, cocked it, and boom, fired it.
It's a handy little gun. They're all iron frame, or they had brass framed ones with silver plating. But it's a little blued steel barrel, hammer, and usually a square butt, usually done in rosewood grips. There were others, and there were some made with a rounded butt. The interesting thing is that most of these guns, when you get them, show wear. So they actually were carried in somebody's pocket.
So obviously you're looking at a personal protection gun meant to be carried in a pocket and used at very close range. You've got a 130 grain bullet moving out at about 425 feet per second, delivering a whopping 53 foot-pounds of energy. So they better be close.
Merrimack Arms Company made about 6,500 of these guns between 1867 and 1869. Now, Merrimack Arms reorganized in 1869 as the Brown Manufacturing Company, and the gun we're looking at today is in fact a Brown manufactured Southern Derringer. And they would go on to make another 12,000 of these guns until the early 1870s under the Brown Manufacturing name. Now, what's interesting about the Brown manufactured guns is anyone who's a Colt collector or has an interest in early Colt arms will look at the Southern Derringer and they will say, hey, that looks a lot like the Colt third model Derringer that started being manufactured in 1875. And they're absolutely right. Brown Manufacturing went out of business in 1873. And 2 years later, this Colt designed, allegedly, single-shot Derringer emerges, and Colt ends up selling tens of thousands of its third model Derringers and makes them until 1912. but it's a very similar sort of design. And when most people look at this style of firearm, they're thinking Colt, not Brown Manufacturing and Daniel Moore.